Right, 1 times negative 28 is a negative 28, and what goes down here? A negative 3. So you are asking yourself the question, what can I multiply to get a negative 28 that I can add to get a negative 3? Did anyone find it yet? 28 divided by 1 is 28. 28 divided by 2 is 14. 3 doesn't work. 28 divided by 4 is 7. 5 doesn't work. 6 doesn't work. And now we're back to 7. Of these, which one can get you to a negative 3?
4 and 7.
It's going to be the 4 and 7. Those are 3 units apart, right? We just got to figure out how. So if I have to multiply to get a negative, is it 2 negatives, 2 positives, or 1 of each?
Negative.
It is 1 of each. When I add them together, it should be negative. So which one needs to be negative?
Negative.
The 7. So you have a negative 7, a positive 4, and we write that as n minus 7 and n plus 4. Okay, and we're done. That's not new. You did that on your quiz. Some of you nailed it on the quiz. Others of you, it was a little tougher, and that's fine. We have more time to work on it because what we're going to do today is essentially that same thing, but now your A term is going to be different. Okay, so we're going to put your notes right here for this, how we do it. Here's the good news. You've seen it all before. What goes up top is your A times your C. What goes in the next 2 spots is your A value. What goes down below is your B value. And you are looking for a number here and a number there that when you multiply, you get the top number. And when you add, you get the bottom number. Not a single thing has changed so far in our setup, right? It looks exactly the same. Okay? The thing that's going to change now is where we always put 1s before, up here. These were always 1s for every single problem. They won't be anymore. So now what you have to do is you have to look at this as your new answer with a different number up top, which means if you look at this kind of like a fraction, because it looks like a fraction, we always reduce fractions, okay? So as long as you reduce your fractions, that's really the only thing that changes today from what we did before. You're going to reduce your fractions, okay? Let me show you. Set up a star for example 1 here. Now, if my top is actually A times C, A times C right now is not 3 anymore. It was when that was a 1. Now my A is a 2. So what is it?
6.
It's a 6. So now that top number should be a 6. Your bottom number doesn't change. What's your bottom number?
No.
The bottom number is going to be a 5. Okay, that's still your B term. So here's your B, here's your A, here's your C. What goes here and here? It's a 2 now. Okay, so this is different. 2 and 2. Okay, now your process is exactly the same. You are looking for something that we can multiply to get 6, that we can add to get 5. What would that be? There's 1 and 5, there's 2 and 3. It's 2 and 3, right? 2 plus 3 will get you 5. 2 times 3 will get you 6. So this is a 2, and this is a 3. Okay, if you checked out, here's where I need you to check in. I now have this fraction, okay? 2 over 2. We're going to treat it like a fraction. It's not a fraction, but we're treating it like a fraction. What does 2 over 2 reduce to?
1.
Okay, but leave it as a fraction. So 1 over 1. So whenever you see this fraction here, you turn it into 1 over 1, and that's the one we're going to use. Does 2 over 3 reduce? So that's the one we're going to use, okay? So here's your new setup then. We were working with x's, and if you want to put your x up with that top number, that's fine. So this first one on the left would be 1x plus 1. How do you suppose you write the second one?
2x minus plus
Plus 3. The right side then is 2x plus 3. Okay, so literally the only thing that changes is your a value, and then you have to reduce that fraction. But you write everything the same way. Okay, let's try number 2. What goes up top?
30.
Why? 5 times 6. A times C is 30. Okay, not 6. 6 is tempting. Don't do 6. Okay, so 30 up top. What goes on bottom? Negative 17. Okay, that's your B term. Now, what goes here and there? The 5. You can put the M if you want, but that's a 5. Your M, if you want to put the M with it to help you remember to put the M with that number, that's 5. But 5 goes up top. Okay, now ask yourself the question, what can I multiply to get 30 that I can add to get a negative 17? Before we even think numbers, think positives and negatives. A positive times a positive would get me 30. Would a positive plus a positive get me a negative 17? No, so they're not both going to be positive. A positive times a negative doesn't get me a positive 30, so it can't be one of each. So what do they have to be? Both negative. Okay, so you look at your numbers. Here's 30. 1 times 30, 2 times 15, right? I'm just going 30 divided by 1, 30 divided by 2, 30 divided by 3 is 10. 4 doesn't work. 5 is 6, and now we're to 6, so we're done. Which of those combos, if both are negative, could get me to a negative 17? That would be that one. So a negative 2 and a negative 15. Now, does this reduce? Okay, so if it doesn't reduce, you leave it alone. We write that as 5m minus 2. Does this reduce? Yes, to what?
1 over negative 3.
Yep, 1 over negative 3. So reduce it, and then that's the one you'll use. How do I write that? Not minus negative. Minus 3. So 1m, you can just write m, minus 3. That is your answer. Okay? I want you to try number 3 and number 4. Set up your star, put things where they belong, and see if you can figure out what that's supposed to be. Who thinks they got number 3? I saw one right answer. I didn't see a lot of final answers, so it doesn't mean only one person got it right. Okay, I'm curious what you got. What was your final answer? Isaiah, what'd you get?
Oh, wait, hold on. Number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I got 3m minus 4 and then 2m plus 1.
They were wise, but
Oh,
anybody else get that? And keep in mind, you can flip-flop them. It can be 2y plus 1 times 3y minus 4. This is the right answer. Let's take a look. So up top, a times c is a negative 24. Down below is a negative 5. And then your a value goes here, 6 and 6. So you make your list for 24. Now, if it's helpful to you, think about what you need right now. If I need to multiply to get a negative, how many negatives do I need? One. Only one can be negative. So call one of these negative and one of them positive. We got to figure out which one's which and what that set of numbers will be. So 24 is 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, 5 doesn't work, and then you're back to 6. Okay? Have you noticed you do a lot of the same numbers over and over and again? You're going to get real good at the factors for these. Let's see. Okay. So if one has to be negative, which of these can add up to a negative 5? A negative 8, a positive 3. From there, you got to do some reducing. So 6 over negative 8, both of those are divisible by 2. So 3 over negative 4, which is where this came from, 3y minus 4. 6 over 3 reduces to 2 over 1, which is where this one came from, 2y plus 1. Did you get there? All right. Did anyone finish 4? What'd you get, Jima?
No, I didn't
Oh,
have a
question? Yeah.
On the right, for the 6, when you reduce it, why'd you do a 2 instead of a 3?
Because it's 6 over 3, right? So 6 and 3 are both divisible by 3. So if you divide by 3, 6 divided by 3 gets you 2. 3 divided by 3 gets you 1. Yeah. All right, number 4. Let's lay it out. Up top, 12 times a negative 5. The most common mistake you're going to want to make right here is you're going to want to put a negative 5 up top because you're so used to having the 1 out in front. So just make sure you multiply these two. You get a negative 60. And then your bottom number should be 11. And these are 12s. Okay, so the question is, what can I multiply to get a negative 60 that I can add to get 11? If I'm multiplying to get a negative, what must be true? How many are negative? 1 is negative. So 1's going to be positive and 1's going to be negative. If that helps you to write it in so that you don't mix it up, write it in. That's probably what I saw done wrong most on the quiz, was people found two numbers that work, but forgot that when you multiplied them, they had to be negative. And so made both of them negative or vice versa. So to get 60, oh, there's a lot for 60. 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, 5 times 12, 6 times 10, 7 doesn't work, 8 doesn't work, 9 doesn't work, and we're to 10. So those are all the factors of 60. We're trying to get to a positive 11. Anyone see it? Is it 1 and 60? Are those close enough to add or subtract to 11? No. 2 and 30? No. 28, 32, it's not going to happen. 3 and 20 to get to 11? No. 4 and 15? That one could. So check it. If one has to be positive and one negative, if it's going to be a positive 11, the positive one has to be the bigger one. And then the negative one has to be the smaller one. Okay? So 15 plus a negative 4 is 11. 15 times a negative 4 is negative 60. So that's what works. But now you got to reduce. 12 over 15, both of those are divisible by what? 3. So if you divide by 3, you get 4 over 5. So that's the one we're going to use. 12 over negative 4, those are both divisible by 4. So 3 over negative 1. And you leave the negative where it's at. Don't move it up to the top. I know that's allowed in other math. It's not allowed in this. So you get 4c plus 5 and 3c minus 1. How'd you do? All right, last two then. Jump to, are you done here? Can I move on? Jump down to number 7. It says examples with a GCF. So Sometimes there will be a greatest common factor that you can pull out of everything first, but then there will still be an A term that's not 1. So let me show you on number 7 what I mean by that.
It's 5.
Your GCF is 5. You can divide everything here by 5. So if I pull a 5 out, I'm left with 2k squared. 75 divided by 5 is 15k. And then 35 divided by 5 is 7. Okay, now refresh my memory. When you factor out a GCF, do you do your star with the original or the newer? The newer. So your star has to come from this. Okay? This is that point where I would say write your final answer, 5 times something, so that you don't forget that 5 out in front. What's going to go up top on my star? A 14. 2 times 7 is 14. Your A term now is a 2. Don't put the 10 there, right? That's my old A term. I want the newer A term. So that's a 2. And then my B term is the 15. So you're asking, what can I multiply to get 14 that I can add to get 15? So 1 times 14, 2 times 7, 3 doesn't work, 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, 6 doesn't work, and we're back to 7, okay? Of those two, which one can add to 15? 1 and 14. Is there anything to reduce?
14.
2 and 14 should be 1 and 7. So you'll have this one. This one doesn't reduce, so you'll leave that one alone. And we're working with k's in this problem. So it's going to be 2k plus 1 and 1k plus 7. So if you have to factor GCF out, do that, but then still A times C with your new set of information is what you're going to set up as your star. Okay? You try number 8. David, did you find a GCF? You did not? Nick, did you find a GCF?
I don't know.
John did? What did you find for your GCF? 2? Anybody else find 2 for their GCF? Okay. So if we factor out a 2, we should be left with, so you're dividing by 2, right? Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So you get 6x squared. 2 divided by 2 is 1x. You can put the 1 in if it helps you to see it better. You don't have to put the 1 in. That's up to you. This one you have to put in because there's nothing else there. So 2 divided by 2 is a 1 for that. Okay, then we set up our star. Yasleen, what'd you put on top of your star? A -6. So A times C is a -6. Brooklyn, what'd you put on bottom? What goes here? It's a 1, right? That's your B term, is a 1. And then, Kiana, what'd you put in this slot?
6.
That's a 6. That's your new A term, 6 and 6. Okay, the question is, what can you multiply to get a -6 that you can add to get a +1? So 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. You need to figure out positive, negative, what we get from that to get to a -6 when you multiply, but a +1 when you add. So if my number is a negative up top, this number is a negative. Logan, can you tell me how many negatives you need if your top number has to multiply to be a negative?
1.
1. So 1's going to be positive. 1's going to be negative. negative 2, a positive 3. Okay, if we add those together, so positive 3, negative 2, will add to get you a positive 1. So far, so good? Eli, put it back in again. Do either of those reduce? Both of them. 6 over 3 would be 2 over 1, so you're going to use that one. 6 over negative 2 reduces to what? 3 over negative 1, so you're going to use that one. I didn't rewrite my final answer. Don't forget your 2 out in front. So it's going to look like this. What do you put in that first slot then? 2x, right? Attach your x to that top number. So 2x plus 1 and 3x minus 1. Questions on that? So it doesn't feel super different than what we did in 7-7, right? It's just now there's a fraction that you have to reduce.